Imagine for a second trying to fight a war with nothing. No uniform or supply lines, no government backing, just one mission: fight back against the occupiers who were in your country. So what would you do? Well, that's just the scenario that many people joining the French resistance early on found themselves in. When Germany invaded France in 1940, the country fell fast, not because of lack of bravery, but for other reasons. And the resistance didn't rise up well armed. They started with whatever they could find, steal, or salvage, and that wasn't much. In many places, even owning a single bullet could mean arrest, torture, deportation, even execution in some circumstances. At first, some people managed to get their hands on old World War I rifles like the Berthier or Lebel, while others used shotguns, revolvers, and hunting rifles that had been hidden away and stashed in other places. Or they just grabbed whatever happened to be abandoned during the retreat. With these outdated weapons, possibly the biggest problem was ammunition and parts. If you didn't have bullets or spare parts like springs, the rifle just essentially became a paperweight, and then you were back at square one again, needing a weapon. A very few lucky fighters got their hands on the Mas 36, which was the modern French military rifle from that time period, but they were in short supply until 1943. Now there was a second approach for getting weapons, but it was much more riskier, but very effective. And this was capturing German weapons like the K98 and MP40 and various other pistols and other weapons, whatever they could get their hands on. This gave them a crucial advantage compared to the other option because they could scavenge more ammo and parts from battlefields or German supply depots. But it came with major risk. To get German weapons, you usually had to take it from a German, which usually meant killing one. And if you were caught with that weapon, or if it was found even near you or your building, you could be tortured and executed. A terrible result. So still, desperation often outweighed the danger. You took what you could get. Then came the turning point. The British formed the Special Operations Executive, or SOE, a group Churchill tasked with, and I quote, setting Europe ablaze. They trained agents and sent them into occupied countries to organize sabotage and supply the resistance forces. This is when the weapon drops began. Resistance groups would huddle around their hidden radios to listen to the BBC, for coded messages, and this meant a drop was coming. At night, Allied planes would fly over rural France to drop containers by parachute, which were filled with various supplies like Sten guns, Lee Enfield rifles, grenades, radios, and an assortment of random supplies, even explosives. But these drops weren't subtle. A parachute in a field told the Germans the resistance was active nearby. So the resistance had to move fast and grab everything and hide the evidence and vanish before dawn. Now let's pause for a second and talk about these weapons that were dropped to the resistance. The Lee Enfield rifles, the SMLE, the No. 1 Mark III, and then the Lee Enfield No. 4 Mark I were excellent bolt-action rifles. They were fast-cycling, reliable, and held 10 rounds of .303 British. Then there were the Stens on the other hand, simple 9mm submachine guns that were side-loading, and they weren't elegant. They were often known to jam or misfire, but they were relatively easy to use, easy to hide, and perfect for guerrilla fighting. Other gear came too, including hunting rifles, the standard sidearms of different militaries, with a range of explosives, including plastic explosives, detonators, and time pencils, mill bombs, which were the British standard issue hand grenade, grenade launchers, and grenade cups, but we don't know which, as records seem to be missing on this. And then there were the gamma bombs, which were great for anti-vehicle ambushes. An interesting fact, though, to mention here is that we do not know how many of each weapon model were dropped. Records tell us, for example, that thousands of Stens were delivered, but we don't know how many were Mark IIs or Mark IIIs. Grenade launchers were mentioned in records, but we don't know which type. That part is still a mystery. Even after reaching out to archives and museums in Europe, I have hit a dead end in this research, as they seem to be missing these records as well. For the resistance, these drops changed everything. Using standardized British weapons meant standardized ammo, parts, and a real supply chain for once, which this was a huge upgrade. And by the time D-Day approached, entire resistance units had formed, armed with real battlefield firepower. With these weapons, they were blowing up rail lines, ambushing convoys, and sabotaging German movements. This played a critical role in softening the enemy for the Allied landings. Now, to be clear, their arsenal was always a mixed bag. One person might be carrying a Sten while another captured K98K. Someone else would be carrying a World War I era Berthier or a Lebel. It wasn't about standardization, it was about making what you had work. When we picture the resistance, we often think of them being fully equipped. But the truth is, they started with nothing. What made them dangerous wasn't their gear. It was their creativity, their will to fight, their bravery, and their refusal to give up, even when the odds were impossible. And when the time came, they were ready. And they heavily supported the D-Day landings. In fact, many Allied generals later admitted that we couldn't have succeeded without them. So now I've got to ask, if you were in their boots, no gear, no support, just a mission, what would you have done? Which resistance weapon would you have trusted your life with? Let me know, I would love to hear. And if you learned something today or just love this kind of history, do me a favor, give it a like, subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with just one person you know who's into history. One click helps this channel grow and this video to get in front of more people. Until next time, build brave, stand tall, and remember, just as the resistance proved, success is determined more by who you are than by what gear you have.